The night before my wedding, I had a dream that felt more real than anything I had ever experienced. My late grandmother appeared in the kitchen of my childhood home. She looked frightened and held my hands tightly. "Don't marry him," she whispered. "Before sunrise, go to his mother's house. You need to see something for yourself." Then she vanished. I woke at 4:17 a.m., trembling and completely unable to go back to sleep. At first, I blamed wedding nerves. Everything was ready. In a few hours, I was supposed to marry the man I had loved for 4 years. But the feeling in my chest wouldn't disappear. I finally got dressed, grabbed my keys, and drove through the empty streets toward my future mother-in-law's home. My name is Claire Morgan, and until that morning, I honestly believed I was about to begin the happiest chapter of my life. My fiancé, Ethan Parker, was charming, successful, and loved by everyone around us. My parents trusted him, my friends adored him, and I had never given myself a reason to doubt him. That changed when I reached his mother's house. Ethan had told me he was staying with his best friend before the wedding, yet his black SUV was sitting in his mother's driveway. I sat in my car for several minutes, trying to invent harmless explanations. Finally, I walked to the front door. It was slightly open. I pushed it gently and stepped inside. The house was quiet, but voices were coming from the kitchen. Then I recognized Ethan's voice. I moved closer and heard his mother say, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Ethan answered calmly, "We've come too far now." My heart started racing. His mother sounded worried. "What if Claire discovers what you're doing?" Ethan laughed softly. "She won't. She trusts me completely. Once we're married, everything will be easier." I stood frozen in the hallway. Then his mother asked, "And her grandmother's property?" Ethan replied, "That lake house is worth a fortune. Once we combine our finances and get control of everything, we can sell it. That money will clear our debts." I felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath me. He wasn't marrying me because he loved me. I was part of a financial plan. His mother sounded uncomfortable. "She's a good woman. I hate seeing you take advantage of her." Ethan's response was cold. "Love doesn't solve financial problems. I'll play the perfect husband until everything is legally connected. After that, we'll figure out the rest." I quietly pulled out my phone and recorded the conversation. I didn't confront them. I didn't make a sound. I simply walked back to my car with tears running down my face. I had driven there looking for a reason to trust my instincts. Instead, I found proof that my instincts had been protecting me. Before heading home, I called my grandmother's old attorney, Mr. Reed. I told him only that I needed immediate help protecting my property and finances. He understood that something serious had happened and promised to make sure nothing could be transferred or combined without my approval. Then I went home and pretended everything was normal. My bridesmaids arrived with coffee and excitement. The makeup artist started working on my hair and face. Everyone kept telling me how beautiful and nervous I must feel. Meanwhile, I was carrying a secret that had changed the entire meaning of the day. Ethan texted me, "Good morning, future wife. I can't wait to see you." I replied, "Me neither." It was the easiest lie I had ever told. By noon, the garden venue was packed. Guests smiled, music played, and everyone believed they were about to witness a beautiful wedding. I walked down the aisle just as planned. Ethan looked at me with the same smile that had once made me feel safe. But now I could see the calculation behind it. The ceremony began, and when the officiant reached the traditional question about whether anyone had a reason the couple should not marry, I slowly raised my hand. "I do." The entire garden went silent. Ethan stared at me. "Claire, what are you doing?" I looked at the guests and said, "I think everyone deserves to know what this marriage was really about." I connected my phone to the venue speakers and played the recording. Ethan's own voice filled the garden. His mother's questions followed. Then everyone heard him discussing my grandmother's lake house and his plan to gain access to my assets after the marriage. Faces changed instantly. Some guests gasped. Ethan rushed toward me, insisting that I had misunderstood everything. I simply asked, "Then explain it." He couldn't. His mother began crying, while Ethan stood speechless. I turned to the officiant and said, "I want a marriage built on trust, not a financial strategy." Then I walked away. Near the parking lot, an elderly woman called my name. It was Mrs. Harper, one of my grandmother's closest friends. She had tears in her eyes. She handed me a small envelope and told me my grandmother had given it to her years earlier with strict instructions: only give it to me if I ever faced a moment when I needed to trust my own judgment. Inside was a handwritten note. It said, "Never silence your inner warning simply because you are afraid of disappointing someone. Protect your peace, and never mistake pressure for love." I cried when I read it. Suddenly, the strange dream didn't matter nearly as much as the message behind it. Whether it had been grief, intuition, or simply my grandmother's wisdom living inside me, it had pushed me toward the truth. 6 months later, I returned to the lake house. Instead of selling it, I restored it and made it my own. Ethan tried contacting me several times, but I never answered. I no longer wondered whether I had ruined my future. I realized I had protected it. Sometimes the hardest decision is walking away from something everyone else believes is perfect. But real love should never require you to ignore your instincts, surrender your independence, or become someone else's financial solution. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can receive before saying "I do" is discovering the truth before it is too late. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel for more emotional family and relationship stories, and tell us in the comments. Would you have confronted Ethan immediately, or would you have waited and gathered proof first?